So here we are in what looks like a perfectly normal, perfectly innocent start of a Thorgrim campaign. But nothing could be further from the truth, because lurking just beneath the surface is a nightmare about to be unleashed. Hey guys, welcome back to Gaming for Immersion. My name is Michael, and I hit a new low, or maybe it's a new high, at being a glutton for punishment. By combining two mods, I managed to turn Warhammer into a survival game. So let's talk about it. Anyone who played Civ probably remembers a setting called Raging Barbarians, where your cities and units are under constant attack by uncivilized hordes, turning the early game into more of a survival game than a 4X game. Well, I got to wondering, what if we combined two of the most recent mods I did showcases for? Slower expansion and settlement supply lines gives a whopping public order penalty every time you conquer a new settlement, and campaign realism causes your public order to spin wildly out of control, getting worse instead of better as the control level drops. First disclaimer, don't try this at home unless you're a professional sadist, that is. I'm pretty much a glutton for punishment when it comes to amping up the difficulty of this game, and even I would only ever play this as a meme campaign. But I'll show you what it does, and it is a blast. First thing, it's very important to start on legendary difficulty, because you want the full Raging Rebels experience. You could probably play on a lower difficulty and actually make this a legitimate but very challenging campaign, but that's not what we're interested in today. So here we are back at the start of the game, looking normal. We can go ahead and defeat our starting enemy just like normal. But then these mods kick in as soon as we capture that next settlement, and oh boy, do things start going crazy. Here we can see the effect of slower expansion and settlement supply lines mod, which causes each of our two settlements to get a public order and growth debuff to reflect the migration of inhabitants, new supply lines, etc., etc. This will last for 3 turns, and the effects will diminish each turn, but it will already be too late, as I'll show you in a second. Combine those effects with that of the campaign realism mod, which causes even more debuffs as your control drops, and also causes a further public order penalty, and maybe you can see where I'm going with this. I'll show a little bit of how turn after turn the public order problem gets increasingly worse. There's very little we can do to stop it because of the way these two mods synergize together. All we can do is slow it down and prepare. Notice that our replenishment is nil, even though we have the building that buffs it, and this problem is only going to get worse. On the next turn, we can attack our enemy again, but I know every single unit is going to matter, so we cannot afford to lose a single one, which means I have to fight battles manually to prevent any more casualties than necessary. No problem, right? I mean, they're just low-tier greenskins. Except when you consider that we're not getting any replenishment at all, you'll see that even little losses add up quickly. And meanwhile, our public order keeps on dropping, and the rebellion is a ticking time bomb. And we don't dare occupy this second conquest because it will only exacerbate the control problems and speed up the rebellion before we're ready for it. At this point, you may be wondering whether the AI has to deal with these same penalties. Well, when we turn off Fog of War and look around at our neighbors, we see that, sure enough, there are rebellions brewing for every faction that has started expanding. More on that in a minute. One thing that becomes obvious is that there's no point in having the growth and casualty replenishment building, since even with it we get none of either. We're better off demolishing it and replacing it with an income building, since the public order building isn't available until second tier. And you can also see that our recruitment time is now 2 turns instead of 1, even for basic units, because of the campaign realism mod. We're now officially in serious trouble. Another turn, and we begin to ponder whether it's even worth the minimal amount of casualties we'll receive to keep attacking the enemy. I do it one more time, but that's it because we need to start preparing for the chaos that's about to ensue. And again, I fight it manually because every dwarf is so valuable to our continued survival. Looking around after one more turn, and we see more rebellions brewing and some of the old ones beginning to gain strength. But one thing that's curious is not all of them seem to be growing from the initial 8 units. I'm honestly not sure if this is something in vanilla or something from the mod, because I've never paid this much attention to rebellions in AI territory before. I'm paying more attention to it now because I wondered whether this would completely break the game by causing every AI faction to get overwhelmed by rebels. I'll go ahead and spoil that drama by saying that no, that's not what happens. The AI has to send some of its troops back to deal with the rebels, but nowhere do they get completely overwhelmed by them. In fact, no one seems to lose their capital, except maybe us. Because here we go with our first rebellion. Now I could attack them right away, but I decided to take a risk and let them go on one extra turn, partly because I wanted a second turn with the +20 to public order, because we desperately need something to get our control under control. And also because we have a good garrison inside Karaz that we can use if they attack us instead of us attacking them, which they do on the very next turn. This is a tougher fight than you might expect, and because we have units that are already damaged because they haven't replenished, we're going to need to fight this manually as well. Note that I didn't want to merge any of the depleted units because every time we do that, we are losing a boost to public order from military presence, and we can't spare the extra money and multiple turns it takes to recruit replacements. So we have an exciting battle at the gates of Karaz, and even though I fought it manually, I still managed to lose a unit of miners. I should have kept them out of the fight completely, but I didn't because I'm a real dumbass. Anyway, we then have to pursue them and do a second fight, and this one is maybe even harder because the garrison doesn't come out to help us, and we have no choice but to use units that are already low on dwarfs. Thankfully, we come out of this one with a heavy dose of additional casualties, but without losing any more units. So where does that leave us? Hooray! With the trait we gained, and the follower we got, and the Gorog buff, and everything else, we finally are starting to get some positive public order. Things are starting to turn around.
I wish I could tell you that
Michael
I fought the good fight and
Skarsnik.
let him be. I wish I could tell you that.
So, yeah, this was a brutal turn of events that brought a brutal campaign to a very quick end, and I loved every minute of it. However, this was only a first experiment, and after this one went a bit crazy, I gave a little thought to other ways to approach this, and I think you could do this and be more successful using the deep roads mechanic by staying with just a single region until you're much stronger militarily and economically, and then start expanding. Who knows, maybe I'll give that a try. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.